Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us and being early. I'll just give our participants just 10 extra minutes to join, and then at exactly 2:40, we'll kick off and get started. Thank you. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining so early. We're just waiting for 8 more minutes for our attendees to join. They're all filling up. So just give it a little bit of time. And then at exactly 2:40, we'll go right ahead. Okay, just 2 more minutes and then we can get it started. Perfect. Okay, it is 2:40. We can kickstart our thing now. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, right? We're doing APIs, AI, and ecosystems, and the new rules of digital business. My name is Tendai. I'm head of technical services at Adept Solutions. It is wonderful, actually, to see so many of you joining us today from across Zimbabwe's leading organizations. Your presence here speaks just to how relevant this conversation has become. Let me take a moment to tell you who we are. Adept Solutions is a Zimbabwean ICT company headquartered here in Harare. We specialize in three core areas: cybersecurity solutions, digital infrastructure solutions, and ICT training and certifications. Over the years, we have worked with banks, insurers, utilities, healthcare institutions, and government entities across Zimbabwe, helping them build technology environments that are secure, modern, and fit for the digital economy. We are proudly a Southern African business, and that matters to us because we understand this market. We understand the constraints our clients operate under, and we are committed to bringing you world-class technology solutions that actually work in our context. And that is precisely why the partnership I'm about to speak to means so much to us. To tell you more about the partnership and what it means for organizations like yours, I would like to hand over to our managing director, a man who has been driving Adept Solutions vision from the very beginning. Mr. Nheta, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tendai, for the introduction. Welcome to all our participants for this webinar. Indeed, the issues of digital transformation have not only become topical, most organizations are looking at ways they can improve service delivery, ways they can grow, innovate. But before perhaps I go into the discussion about the solutions and the technical part, I want to say, why are we talking about API management in the context of a digital business or a digital transformation? So most businesses today have got data and software sitting in different systems. And this digital transformation requires a seamless flow of data and information across different systems, databases that we have. So this is where APIs are integral, because our APIs help us to ensure that, number one, we are able to connect the information seamlessly. And then, so why is API important for digital transformation? It helps us to eradicate those silos where we have data sitting in this system that is not able to talk to the other system by providing the interfaces to connect. Secondly, APIs helps to drive hyper automation. And indeed, in today's technology, people are looking for, seamless end-to-end service provision. So instead of people spending hours capturing the data in the other system, but through the APIs, we are able to transfer data seamlessly across different systems, not only in the same organization, in one organization, even in different organizations. So if you think about our own context, a lot of organizations are interfacing, for example, to the payment system like EcoCash. It might be the banking applications. You have got your customers, we have got a mobile wallet. They want to transfer money from their bank account into their mobile wallet. And this is where the systems are different, but that's where APIs help us to be able to move data across platform. What is the result? It's better customer experience for our clients, because now suddenly the interconnection between systems is much better, and the service delivery is also better. We will also take note that our customers have become so savvy. They are requiring more and more from our digital solutions, interconnectedness between different platforms, data moving from in-house business applications onto the web, so that there's seamlessly transacting to the convenience of our customers. All this is underpinned by the need to have API integration and management. So I would want to actually say that API integration and management has become strategic and central to the delivery of quality services to our customers. So this is where now, as Adept Solution, I think Tendai alluded, we are always looking out to say how best can we enhance our customers in terms of IT service delivery. So we do have a partnership with the WSO2, and this partnership will allow us to actually unleash a lot of solutions, not only for API integration and management, but also solutions where we are actually able to monetize some of our APIs and go beyond, also in terms of developing your software development pipeline. We do have solutions from the production of the software end to end, and also managing of the APIs. And mostly important as well as data, the need for data to move from one system to the other has become more imperative. There's issues of governance and compliance. And I think this is where API management becomes very essential, and also taking care of securities of the various, maybe it's our business partners whose systems are connecting to our systems through the various APIs. How do we make sure that we are secure? How do we make sure that if the demand surge, we have got load balancers in between our customers who are connecting to our APIs. So to take us further, Dulsara will come in and take us into the more detailed discussion. But I would love, at the end of the session, to have further conversations with all of us who are in this presentation, so that we can be able to have more intimate discussions on how we can assist you with regard to API management and integration. Digital transformation is now dictating on us actually moving this direction. Otherwise, we'll be lost out. Dulsara, over to you.
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Greetings, everyone. A very good afternoon to all of you. First off, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today. And of course, first off, thank you, Ms. Wellington, Margaret, Tendai, and the Adept team for organizing all of this. So maybe before we get started, maybe let me just quickly share my screen. There we go. Tendai, could you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, Dulsara, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So before we get started, maybe let me do a quick introduction about myself. So I'm Dulsara Kumarage. I'm a sales engineer from WSO2 based out of Sri Lanka. And I'm looking into the African region. My primary role within WSO2 is to help enterprises kind of achieve their digital goals through creating clarity into any bottlenecks that they might have, or bottlenecks or even opportunities they might miss that ends up preventing them from, reaching new audiences or scaling their business, reducing TCO. So, over the next 50 minutes or so, my goal is to kind of walk you all through some stories so that you might also be able to see whether we could be of any help to your team as well. And of course, the way to reach us is through our, trusted partners on ground at Adept Solutions. So, before we get started, I'll just give a quick introduction about WSO2, who we are. So WSO2 at a glance, we are a company that was founded way back in 2005. We now have over 800 employees. We've crossed 115 million ARR. We currently have 950 plus enterprise customers spread throughout 90 plus countries across 6 continents. We facilitate over 60 trillion transactions every year with more than 2.5 billion identities managed through our systems. We of course provide technical solutions in the form of open source software as well as SaaS products. And as far as our global presence goes, we have 13 offices all across the globe. So Austin, Sao Paulo, London, Madrid, Dubai, and all of that. But of course, the majority of our teams are based out of Sri Lanka, Colombo. But that being said, we are heavily expanding our footprint in Africa as well. So we recently incorporated in South Africa and Kenya, and we are also opening up in Nigeria. And of course, through the South African entity, we are also heavily focusing on the Southern African region as well. And just to give you an idea about the verticals we play in, so we play in, finance, we play in healthcare, government, transport, education, telco, retail, general technologies, hospitality, and many more niches. Of course, these are only some of the handpicked niches out of many that we work in. And bringing this conversation a bit closer to Africa. So we have over 60 customers, enterprise customers within Africa with many, many more open source initiatives going on. Uh, and of course, we have over 30% year-on-year growth within the region, and we are present in 20 plus countries. And just to give you an idea about some of the customers that we have, so some of these logos you might resonate with, you might identify as well. So we are in their mission critical systems, helping them scale their business, helping them manage uptime and all of that. So this is from a very high level who we are. But just to talk about what we do, we really need to start talking about this fancy term. And Mr. Wellington luckily touched on this as well, digital transformation or digital modernization as we go for it. So one way to think of digital modernization is, that's where the journey to amazing customer experiences begin. And I mean, it's very easy to say this, but why does it matter? Why does, creating amazing customer experiences matter? Well, I mean, just think of a quick scenario. I've always found myself in this scenario, and just to set some context, so as I said, I'm from Sri Lanka, and we are a very cash heavy country. So we don't have these mobile wallets and all of that like a lot of Southern African and in Africa in general have. So we don't have the likes of Mukuru and all that. The products are available, people don't use it that much for some reason. But what that really causes us is I've had many times where I've been walking down the street. I've found, amazing street vendors, selling some, delicious food or some other items. And what had happened is, always, uh, I usually don't carry enough money to purchase that. So here's the scenario where there's a vendor that's ready to sell, and there's a buyer that's interested in buying. But the moment I think of buying, I remember, okay, I need to now find an ATM, go there, grab money, and come back and do that. So this resistance in making this business really caused me to think, hey, is it really worth the walk to the ATM, waiting in line, getting money, coming back and buying this? Do I really need it that much? So if that resistance wasn't there, if there was a way where I could just quickly pay this person and get on with my day, I would have bought that. So that person lost that sale due to that resistance in that experience. And this is not because that person doesn't have a bank account. Obviously, bank account is there. I have my phone. I have my, my mobile banking app where I can put his, account number and send him the money. But again, it's not a matter of not being able to do the transaction. It's because I have to now think of, making, getting his bank account right, doing the transfer, verifying, waiting, all of that. So all of that resistance is why that person would lose the deal. So this is why removing resistance in customer engagements is absolutely paramount. Now, of course, this is a very trivial example, but the sales principle absolutely stands about removing resistance. So this scales from a simple street vendor all the way up to, multinational corporations. And, if experience drives business, then digital modernization is how you scale that experience. Because guess what? User experience is the new currency of trust, which means the better the experience you provide in engaging your customers in across all the channels you have, it creates more trust in business, better reputation in business, and that naturally translates into growth. And the worst part about this entire ordeal is, in the digital first space, customers no longer compare. Let's say you're a bank. Customers are no longer going to compare your bank app against another bank app. Or let's say you're a hotel booking app, or some kind of voucher app. They're no longer going to be comparing the experience you provide against your rivals. They're going to compare the experience you provide against every single digital experience they've ever experienced, because they know if a better experience exists, if there's a better, more convenient way to log in exists, if there's better response that exists. If you're not doing it, it is noticeable. So let me just paint you a picture, because we were just talking about a bank as well. Um, of course, early in the day, we had the typical banks, people walk in, deposit money, write withdrawal checks, cash it out. Later, it became into, this USSD, you dial up a number, and then you get the mobile banking part of it. And then the time came for internet banking, then the mobile apps came. But now we are heading into an era where we are talking about agentic banking. So what I mean by this is, think you're a bank and this is a bank's WhatsApp number. So a customer of yours can just simply put a message saying hi to this WhatsApp number, and it just directly gives a link to sign in with the bank. So you go there, you sign in with your fingerprint. I don't even need to enter my username, password, and stuff. There we go. And just with your fingerprint, you're securely logged in into WhatsApp. And the bank assistant is already assisting you with this here. It's pulling up all of your information around the bank balances, what accounts you have, the beneficiaries, and all of that. And you just naturally say, hey, in this case, you can see it returned all the responses. And it just naturally say, hey, I owe $100 to a person because of a weekend trip. Can you please transfer it? So he's going to go through all the beneficiaries and see whether a person called John Smith is already in the beneficiaries. If so, it's going to return whether you want to send this amount over here, XYZ. So you can see, uh, is this the account that you want to withdraw from? Is this the person you want to send to? Is this the amount? And also, is this the reference? And it already understood whether there's enough balance to do that, or yes or no. So it can proceed for you. And you can see, it's going to send the OTP. Just like a typical bank app experience, only that you no longer need the app. And just like that, your transfer is done. So it's going to revert to you with the receipt. So you can send this. So you didn't have to type or do anything further. And this is not just for transfers. Just think of, again, another banking scenario. Of course, I promise we get out of the banking conversation after this. But again, we go through the same login process. And once we get in here, a person might just ask, hey, what is a simple way to calculate how much my monthly income can I spend on a car loan? So it's not only going to go through all of your salary and all of the information it has, it's also going to find out how much money you're using every month. It's going to figure out what excess amount you have in your retainer. And it's also going to match out the current car loan rates and whether it's advisable for you to go with the current financial situation of yours. And then it's going to guide you through all of this. So, of course, these facilities were offered by banks under the priority sector. And this is why, with the relation managers, this is why the high net individuals stayed with the banks. But imagine scaling this experience so that every single customer of yours that is banking with you gets their own personal assistant so they can walk through all of this. And you don't need to hire any additional employees to get it done. Imagine the experience you create. Imagine the number of people you can help achieve their dreams with, because now they have access to financial advice at their fingertips. So this is the experience I'm talking about, and this should not be limited to just banking. Think of insurance. Think of submitting a claim through WhatsApp in the same process, getting all of that audited in that way, making sure making sure you get your policy statements on time and all of that. Or think of even you know think if you are from the government, think of for example a revenue authority that's able to autofill their taxpayers return the tax returns, and they are able to assess their actual tax obligations to assist them through that process. So all of this is what makes that experience so much easier and so much more closer and relevant for them. So you saw an idea about um, what the future can bring to you. And of course, you already saw why this experience is important in the stories that I tell. But the stories that I tell don't really hold much value because you need proof for that. So let me tell you a story about a very specific entity that decided they want to kind of reimagine banking. So this bank, they basically said, hey, we want to create a bank, and we don't believe it should be based on brick and mortar. So we don't want any branch presence. We don't want any, branches and people working there. It's a neobank. It's only existing in digital space. So they had the big problem, which is money is a very sensitive thing for anyone. So how do you get anyone to part ways with their hard-earned money and trust in an entity that they can't see? There's no bank manager to just, go and have a chat with if something goes wrong. How do you create that trust to part ways with their money? So this was the problem a bank called GoTime had way back in 2017-18 or so. And just for context, this bank did not exist in 2018 as a bank. So they started piloting in 2018. They did a soft launch in 2019. And this is their story. So GoTime, starting in 2019, their entire platform runs through us. The level of experience we managed to provide through our platform for their bank, which resulted in their entire KYC process being brought down to less than 5 minutes. So a new customer can quickly come to a kiosk in a mall, in a shopping center, sign up to one of their accounts, they get a debit card then and there, and they already have their account created, the identity verification is done, and you are good to go in less than 5 minutes. And guess what? That's just the customer onboarding part of it. Because of the convenience at which our platform allowed GoTime to expose their APIs, it allowed them to, quickly go to market, create new partners, onboard retailers, create, strategic partnerships, offer discounts across the board. So that is where, with this lowered resistance, what they ended up doing is they allowed customers to quickly onboard with GoTime within 5 minutes. And if you are a GoTime member, you will get discounts from this shop, that shop, all these retailers. And they were able to spread throughout their country very quickly because of the level of convenience the development teams had at the partner level to incorporate their APIs. And what this resulted is, within 6 months of going live, At the 6 month, they crossed onboarding more than 120,000 people every month. And um, and around mid 2024, they had 13 plus customers within South Africa, and their business grew so rapidly they were able to even expand into another country, Philippines, where even there they were able to replicate the same experience and onboarded more than 9 million customers in Philippines. And this is not where the story ends, because in 2024 they achieved unicorn status by crossing 1.5 billion US dollars in valuation, a bank that didn't exist in 2020, 2018. And not only that, just this year, this same bank that did not exist in 2018 crossed 15 billion US dollar valuation. So this is the level of power that absolute digital modernization can unlock for you and for your business. There's a massive growth potential when it comes to technology. So there's a typical saying where we say there's a cost for innovation, but there's a bigger cost of not innovating. So this is what the conversation is about. So we talk about this digital modernization and all that, and you understand some proof and some of the concepts behind it. But what does it mean to actually modernize digitally? Well, when you try to do any digital modernization, what you'll end up is you'll find, hey, this is the experience we want to create. And to create this kind of experience, for example, let's say agentic, agentic or AI bot-based experiences, you need to have all of these technologies in place. And then you come across a problem. Okay, this is where we are with our current technology. That is where we want to get to. How do we get there? And typically, the way you get there is you have to modernize your APIs. You have to do a bunch of integrations, connect a bunch of systems that are inherently incompatible together and make them work. And then you have to create, amazing new identity experiences so that those identities can be used by these modern systems. And that is where WSO2 really comes in. So from a very high level overview, what WSO2 provides as technology is from an API management, integration, and identity management point of view, we have three separate offerings. All of those offerings we have, product itself, on-premise solutions, as well as, SaaS solutions. So if you don't have infrastructure, but you still have the same problem, well, you are more than welcome to try out the SaaS solutions as well. And that is one part of it. And on the other side of it, we also have an internal developer platform as well as an agent management platform. What these mean, we will touch them as we go along our stories as these follow. But I just want to kind of paint a picture on what products you can expect during the conversation that follows. And of course, I won't, take up much time over here, but of course, with the typical industry recognition for API management, for IAM, when it comes to Gartner, Forrester, KuppingerCole, we've been notified, leaders, market leaders, innovation leaders, and all of that time and time again. And of course, the same goes for SIAM and all of that. But without spending much time, given the time sensitivity of today's session, is let's just come back to the primary story, which is, so we were just talking about creating these amazing digital experiences and how that can help your business grow. So how do you deliver these amazing experiences? Well, the way you deliver these amazing experiences is you build new things, you connect to existing things that needs to be pushed through, for data, for interchange, etc. And then you have to deploy it somewhere. And then you need to make sure everything is governed in a way so that your security posture and that safety auditability is there. So the entire name of the game is build, connect, deploy, and govern. So this is a very simple story to tell, but getting into a little bit more technical depth of it. When you're creating these experiences, as Mr. Wellington Nheta has also very rightfully mentioned, is you have to connect a bunch of systems that are inherently incompatible with each other. For example, let's say you are a large enterprise, you have your CRM where all of your sales live, you have your HR, you have your internal labs, you have a bunch of other systems. All of these systems will work fine on its own. The problems start to arise the moment you need to get those systems to talk to each other and exchange data with each other. So then the inherent question becomes, how do systems talk to each other? Because, of course, systems or softwares, they inherently can't talk to each other unless the engineers specifically create the ability to do that. And when you talk about that, there are two primary parameters that gets involved. So think of any communication we as humans do. Even in those communications, there are two primary parameters. One is the way at which we do it. So we can always talk. I can write an email. I can, conduct a webinar. I can give you a call, or I can write a letter. So that's the method in which we communicate. And then the language. I can talk in, English, Sinhala, Tamil, Zulu, Swahili, likewise. So the same thing exists with systems that are trying to talk to each other as well. There are protocols and languages involved, but things go a little bit deeper as well, because unlike humans who understand things intuitively, with like for example, let's say I talk about Tuesday, you would also understand that is the second working day of a week. So if I tell you second working day of a week, it's Tuesday. But with computers, it's not the case. You have to specifically tell a question in a specific way, and it will only know how to answer in a very specific way. So all of this information with a protocol, a language, and the way you ask a question and the way that system provides the response for the question, all of that is what we call as an API. This is the crux of an API. So for example, think of a weather station's API where it's very happy to tell the weather to anyone that asks, but it will only tell the weather if you ask verbally. That's the protocol. In English, that's the language, and you tell me the location in latitude and longitude. So you can't just say Harare. You have to tell the actual latitude and longitude. So this is what it is expecting to ask. This is what it is being expected to get asked. But in the real world, people who have developed different types of softwares, they come up with things like this. So there might be one person who's talking in Sinhala, my mother tongue, and that person is ready to ask this verbally in Sinhala, and it's going to tell the location as a location, not lat long. It's going to say, I want weather in Colombo or Harare. And then there might be another person holding up a scroll written in Zulu, and then there might be another person, doing sign language. And what happens when you ask all of those questions in all of those ways to that person that's ready to assist you, only if you ask verbally in English and tell the location in Latin long, well, it's going to get confused. So what do you do as a human in order to alleviate this? This is where, for us humans, we use translators, people who have specialized in making sure two people that are inherently incompatible of talking with each other become compatible in talking. So this is where that translator comes in. And this translator is, on the very simplest sense, what an integrator is, what an integration is. It is able to integrate two or more inherently incompatible systems in a way that they all can talk to each other, operate with each other. And within WSO2 scope, we have something called WSO2 integrator, which allows you to do this. And by allowing you to do this, you are able to get more and more systems together and create larger experiences that seem so seamless, like what you saw earlier with the agentic experience. For example, in the agentic experience, you were touching WhatsApp as a WhatsApp as a channel, you were touching the core banking, you were touching multiple databases, you were touching the identity platform. There were so many different systems that had to come together and play nicely with each other in order to deliver that experience to the customers. So this is what this entire story is about. So at WSO2, of course, we have a very visual way of doing things. So what you would have to do is, you have this visual developer where you can just quickly drag and drop your way through, create these integrations, making sure these systems that are not compatible with each other can talk with each other. But okay, you might say, okay, some of my development team might be okay with this, but some will only like to write code. Well, that's where WSO2 can help you as well, because WSO2 is the only vendor that has true pro code to low code parity. What that means is everything you draw here visually has a source code behind it. So with a click of a button, this view gets changed into the source code view, and your engineers can, go their way along, code their way along, and once they are done coding, they can hand that laptop back to you. And when you click that button again, it again goes back to the graphical view where you see flowcharts, where you understand what is happening, and you can verify whether this is the logic that you wanted to have in order to get these systems connected. But at WSO2, we take this experience a step further because this is the way we used to do things. Nowadays, we have a lot of co-pilots built directly into the system, which means you just come and say, hey, this is the system I'm trying to connect. I'm trying to connect system A to system B, and I need you to get this part done. For example, I need to create a WhatsApp channel, and I need to get messages in, and I need to respond. So just by saying it, it's going to use all of its inbuilt connectors and all of that and start designing this flow automatically for you. So all you really needed to do was describe your business problem, and it's going to give you the technical solution for that. So we made that experience that simple. And just to show you how powerful that is. So you can see this person has a human readable, a business vision kind of a document, a PDF. So all this person does is he just uploads this PDF to this, and it already created the integration that is required in order to connect these systems. So that is one part of it. But another part of it is the AI agentic experience that you saw itself. Of course, connecting a bunch of stuff is one part of it, but you need to create the AI agent. That agent needs to be able to impersonate their customers so they can pull the data, they can work with the data, and that agent should be smart enough to decipher things, get actions flowing. So this is where the integrator can again help you in that, because the integrator has the ability to build all of these agents as well. So what that means is, just like the experience you saw earlier, here you just come and say, hey, I need an agent that will respond on WhatsApp, Facebook chat, Messenger, chat spaces, Telegram, whatever your other channels might be, your website, and they should be able to do XYZ things. And these are the systems that need to be connected to it. The more you define your problem and you just talk to it naturally, you don't need to really understand that part, understand the technology part much even. It will help you in building these systems for you. So it's agents building agents. So that's a very high level overview of what this entire integration space is about, and of course how WSO2 can help as well. But where things really get interesting is, we were earlier talking about APIs, and of course with the integrator, with the integrations, you're connecting bunch of APIs together, making sure different systems can talk to each other. But what if you're exposing, you know, APIs yourself? So like this, this weather station API that I was talking about, where you had to have defined and documented very well, the protocol, the language, the payloads, how you ask questions, how you get responses and all that. Now, for any typical enterprise, it's not just one API you will be exposing. It'll be 500 APIs, it'll be 1,000 APIs. And imagine having all of this information written in PDFs or Excel sheets or Word documents or so forth. A person that's coming into your team, a new person that's working in your development team, or a partner that's trying to implement your APIs, they will have the hardest time, because what would happen is they'll get thrown a document or a platform that looks like this. There are so many APIs, so many unique contracts. It's going to be very hard for them to figure out which API do I use, which API will pull what data from where. So imagine, for example, once again, say you're a bank. And at that point, let's say I try to use your bank's payment gateway for my, my online retail business. So the moment I come to your bank's API development portal, I would be shown 500 to 1,000 APIs, and I'll have to sit down and go through every single API. And it'll take me a solid 6 months to 1 year just to read through all the APIs, figure out what APIs I should use. Or I have to call your internal technical teams, ask them to handhold me throughout, and it's going to put a strain on their internal teams as well. So this is why API adoptions and all these digital partnerships take time to, take flight. And this is the exact blocker we removed for go time as well. So for example, now in WSO2 API Manager, of course, we also have a developer portal where all of this is very neatly shown, but still that 500 to 1,000 API problem exists. So that is where a bunch of co-pilots are packed in. So for example, you can see this simple marketplace assistance. You can just simply come and say, hey, I see 500 to 1,000 APIs. This is what I'm trying to do. I have an online business. I have a website. I'm trying to sell things. Do you have any APIs that I can use as a payment gateway to accept payments? And it's going to go through all 500 to 1,000 API documentation, and it's going to pinpoint exactly these are the 2 or 3 APIs that you need to implement. And that just cut down my lead time of understanding your APIs from 6 months to 1 year, all the way down to like 2 to 5 minutes of a chat. And that's the level of acceleration you need if you want to have better reach, if you want to integrate better with other systems as well. And it's not only that. Think of knowledge transfer within your internal teams. Let's say one of your most senior engineers leave the team. How can others carry on in his absence? So when you onboard new developers, new members into engineering team, you're also going to get the same kind of problem. So this is one way that problem can be addressed. And that is all good, finding what API to use. But even within that API, there are, multiple resources that you have to work with. Each of those resources do different things. They expect different questions, different responses. And that is also going to take you a solid 2 or 3 weeks to understand how to use that API once you've identified what API to use. So that is once again where the API chat comes into play. And this is where, you know, you can just simply once again just ask your way through a question, and it will very simply explain to you these are the resources you should call, and it'll actually call you through some mock endpoints, some false questions. It will actually call those endpoints, and it will revert to you with this is how you get this API submitted, this is the response you are getting. And this just directly cut down my time of adapting that API from 2 to 3 weeks all the way down to again another 10 minutes of a chat. So likewise, there's a bunch more features. Every step from designing your APIs, publishing your APIs, the creation, governance, all that is super powered with AI with WSO2 to assist you in that journey in making sure the APIs you produce are up to industry standard, are secure by default. The APIs that you publish are easily consumable, recognizable, and adaptable, and that it actually helps you go to market faster. And besides the stuff that we were just talking about, of course, there are many other amazing use cases. We already talked about digital transformation. So one of the things that the API manager itself can do is, you might have very legacy backends, and you might be doing some, really cool initiatives with, really nice front ends, mobile apps, internet banking, web portals, etc. And this is where API manager can quickly come in, where you don't have to touch your, outdated backends and wait until that process is done to create these new experiences. You just plug in the API manager in the middle, and it'll do the translation in order for you to get these new experiences out of the door quickly. You might have APIs that might have some monetization value. For example, if you have KYC APIs where know your customer party is done very rigidly at your enterprise, and you have customer data that other enterprises are expecting to consume, you can charge for that API per API call, or you can offer 1,000 calls for $10,000 or whatever it might be. So these ways you already have the data. Why not monetize it? So these kinds of strategies is what really allows you to grow your revenue, grow your business as well. And there are many more other features when it comes to AI, governance, and all that, which we'll not go into very strongly today. But one thing I would like to touch is one part is the building part of it, which we are just talking of it. And we were also talking about the governance part of it, the security part of it. But what the API management landscape tries to solve is primarily getting the correct data. But we as humans, we don't work nice with a bunch of log reports and long text and all that. We need nice charts. We need a simple dashboard where we can just quickly open up, see how the system is behaving, whether it's healthy, whether something is going wrong, and so forth. So this is where you need analytics, where you need that observability part of it. So this is where MOSIF comes in. So what MOSIF is essentially all the information that you might have within the system that is running through WSO2 gets pumped into MOSIF, and that would simply portray all of the data that's running under the metadata into a nice graphical chart. For example, think your systems are running very well every single day, but on a particular day where you had a lot of traffic, let's say you had a special, holiday season and you had a bunch of sales, let's say you're a retailer, and then suddenly your online retailing application just started to struggle. It didn't work. You got a bunch of logouts. People couldn't, purchase orders because there were so many people trying to purchase orders and all that. So at that point, what would typically happen is you'll get a bunch of very technical logs that your engineering teams will have to go through a week or two, really finding out what the root cause is, and it's going to take so much time for you to figure out what happens, so it won't happen again. But what happens is typically the while you are doing this root cause analysis, other things start to pop up because that's how technology typically is. There are always things to fight fires with. So this is where a proper observability tool really helps out, because through observability, imagine you can just point at a chart and you can say, hey, I can see at this point there are a bunch of errors, there are a bunch of breakdowns in this chart. Explain to me in detail and create a comprehensive report into what went wrong. And this is you asking in a very simple business sense. And it is going to go through all the data it has access to. And it's going to tell you exactly, okay, this happened because that particular downstream system couldn't scale fast enough during this particular window, and the suggestion is you need to have better horizontal scaling or vertical scaling or whatever the technical resolution for that part might be. So imagine being able to get to your root cause that quickly. Imagine the moment things start going wrong, before you start losing business, the right technical person gets immediately notified, alerted, and maybe even get alerted with the root cause and the problem, so he can quickly attend to it and fix it. This is that uptime that allows you to create better experiences, have a always uptime, and allow you to create better trust with your customers, so they know they can always depend on your brand to get things done when it comes to whatever the scenario might be. So this is where things can help. And within all of these conversations, we of course have to talk about identity, because in the earlier, this agentic experience, this agentic banking experience we saw exactly how a person was able to log into their bank account just by clicking a button and putting their fingerprint. So just think how easy that experience was for a person. And this is what the identity platform tries to solve for you. So what that would look like is, of course, from WSO2 perspective, we provide the typical customer identity as well. From a business to customer perspective, where you are directly creating amazing experiences for your customers. You might also create strategic partnerships with different businesses, and you want to give some delegated access to those people in those different businesses to your systems, where you have to have business to business identity management. You might also have to have business to employee identity management problems, where you need to make sure correct people get access to correct things at correct times. That's it. No over provisioning of access, zero trust, better security position. So all of that can be catered to through WSO2's identity platform. And what really stands out for WSO2 identity is also its ability to consider not just humans, but also AI agents as first-class entities. What I mean by that is we are already getting into a place where we expect internal teams, customers, and all of that to work together in certain scenarios together with agents. So for example, there might be internal engineering teams that are right now working together with agents in order to push code, in order to create systems. And you need to make sure those agents also get their separate type of access, and you manage the access that you give for agents, not just at a code level, but also as a standard security management procedure level that you do for other identities as well. So this is where agentic identity really comes into play. And um, so all of these features come baked in for WSO2 API identity platform. And just to give you an idea, we just talked about, go times KYC process. So this is that part of it. So imagine you want to onboard a person, you want to allow them to self-register to your service, and you want to create a KYC process where you want to collect XYZ data. You want to collect specific types of data. Well, typically you'll need to understand how the product works in order for you to get that part done. But with WSO2, we have a lot of co-pilots packed in, which allows you to just simply speak your way saying, hey, I need to collect this information when someone onboards with us. And then it's going to create those experiences for you. It's going to create those sign up pages for you, collect that data and create that experience for you. And just like that, your adoption for that technology is done. And the same thing goes with, creating logins and of course the identity for agents. You can see when you're creating agentic identity, you can see you can give very specific access to specific tools. For example, let's say you're creating an AI agent as a personal assistant, and that personal assistant should be able to, monitor your emails, create calendar events, schedule meetings, talk to customers, do all that. But you need to make sure it can't delete events. It can only create or update events, like whatever your safety protocol might be. So this is where this system becomes really powerful, because it will directly limit what the agent can and cannot do, not just at a code level, but in a very visual, governed, and auditable way. And of course, all of this is one part of it. The biggest part about identity is, out of all of your tech stack, your identity platform is the only surface that your actual end customers will see, which means they will see when someone logs in, the emails you get, the SMS notifications you get, the OTPs, the login screens. If someone if this suspects a suspicious login, it will report to you via email. So there are multiple surfaces at which your customers will get in contact with your identity solution. So that means your branding exercise for those identity needs to be spot on. And this is typically a very big bottleneck when it comes to any identity platform, because this would require a large collaboration with your internal marketing teams, internal, graphic designing teams, the developer teams, and all of that, for them to come together to get the font families right, the logos right, the colors right. So the login experience you provide looks exactly like all of your other surfaces. It doesn't look like a vendor's solution. So this part is something we have really thought through, because you have already done this branding exercise once when you created your website. When you created a website, you put a lot of thought into how your brand should be represented, the colors, logos, and all of that. So what if you can just simply say, hey, this is my website. Go to the website and find out who we are, what we do, what the colors, logos, and all of that is, and use it. So that is exactly what WSO2 allows you to do. So you can see, just by putting the website link, it will go through, crawl everything, and the branding is already done. And this branding is not just the login screen, but every single surface it touches. The emails, the the notifications, everything is already branded within 30 seconds. So that's the level of acceleration and go-to-market our solutions provide. So you can quickly attain return on investment, because at the end of the day, we all need return on investment for any cost that we bear. And just to show you what kind of experiences our systems can provide. Now, let me paint you a picture. So everyone is very familiar with, the typical username, password, login flow. And of course, we also get the multi-factor authentication where we get the OTP to our SMS and all of that. But here's the scenario. Let me say I'm trying to hack Mr. Wellington, and I'm going to hack his laptop, and then I'm going to figure out what his username and password is just by hacking the laptop. And of course, then you'll say, okay, then he can steal my username password, but he can't steal my OTP. Well, that's where things get even trickier, because for Androids and iOS devices, it's actually relatively easy for a Trojan or like a basic malware to be able to get access to notifications, not the messages, but the notifications. And where does your OTP come? It comes first to the notifications. So at that point, me as the hacker, I have the username, I have the password, and I have the OTP. So at that point, Mr. Wellington's security is compromised. I'm able to impersonate him. But this is where, things, like next generation technologies like typing DNA really comes into play. So typing DNA on a very high level, it's a simple case of, my left hand and my right hand is different to your left and right. And with the difference of lengths and how I learned to type, I might use different fingers to hit A versus B versus X, etc. And it will be different to you. And that means the speed at which I move from one letter to another and from that letter to a different letter is going to be unique and only unique for me. And it's going to be very different for you. So that means if someone studies my typing pattern long enough, they can create a profile around how I type. And that is a very uniquely identifiable thing, just like a fingerprint. So this is why this is called a typing DNA, because that typing profile allows someone to fully recognize who this person is. And what that would allow me to do is now think of a platform that has typing DNA enabled, and think of the earlier scenario where I've stolen Mr. Wellington's credentials. So now I type the same credentials, but the moment I type his username, his password correctly, it recognizes the person who typed this is not Mr. Wellington, this is someone else, and it can raise all the security requirements that it needs to. So this is the level of next generation technology that you can pack and also market, saying this is the level of seriousness at which we take security at our organization. And this messaging creates massive level of trust. And this is just one out of many eggs in the basket. So that's a very high level overview of what we do. But to really assist you in understanding what all of this, how all of this comes together, especially in the financial space, and any space that is very highly governed for security. In a typical basic platform, you will always have some API management solution, either homegrown or a part of some other backend. You will always have some kind of an integration, some system, maybe a home written backend or something, some other vendor, and you do the integrations. You might also have some form of identity, and they all play nicely together. But this is for any platform that doesn't have to really go and stand the scrutiny of audits, especially the likes of audits of financial grade integrations. So this is where the financial platforms come into play. So if you're a bank or if you're any kind of a financial platform, all this other stuff that's marked in red is what you need to do on top of what the basic platform is doing to make sure your systems are absolutely safe, because you're governing people's hard-earned money, and there's no joke. And there's always incentive for hackers to try to impersonate your user base and get things done, because that's direct money. It's not just data selling and eventual money. They can directly steal that. So this is why all of this is important. And there are some frameworks around which that governs all of this. So this is what we call as FAPI compliance, FAPI 2.0 compliance. Now, typically what happens is an entity might create all of this on their own. Or let's say you get an integration product from one vendor, the API management from one vendor, and identity from one vendor. And then your internal team takes care of everything that's marked in red. What happens is eventually something will go wrong, some breakdown somewhere. And what would happen is, and I've worked with customers who've gone through this pain that are now using WSO to remove that pain, is the API vendor will say, hey, this is coming because of issue in the other system, and then go and talk with integrators. The integrators will say, go and talk with the identity, and your team just goes between different vendors and not get the problem solved. So this is the biggest value proposition from WSO2, because we are the only vendor that fully covers all of these three verticals to such an extent that they work so seamlessly together. And your entire journey of creating that financial grade experience with all of those stuff marked in red, it all just comes down to just simply ticking this FAPI compliant application. It's that simple with the system. As long as you have all three components and all three components are configured, it's a journey as simple as that. So that's another part of it. And just because we are talking of banks, I'll just quickly touch on one more part of it, which is around the open banking initiatives. So open banking is where the globe is opening up banking and standardizing banking and how banks expose their information through the country. And typically, I mean, throughout the globe, we already have many different open banking initiatives. The very first initiative in Africa was in Nigeria. But of course, Kenya and other countries are now following suit. They're also exploring the same concepts. And eventually, these things will come out as compliance. So this is where WSO2 is very strong at, because WSO2 has been a part of all of these conversations that have happened throughout the globe in all kinds of situations. And the reason why we are very strong players in this is because we are the only vendor that covers all three verticals needed to create this experience. So that is from a very high level what we do. And this covers the part we talked about: build and govern. as well as connect. But this is where the conversations start to, okay, you built it, you've integrated with stuff, and you've also governed. Now, how do you deploy it? So a typical deployment usually comes where your developers are done writing code. The code is residing in somewhere in GitHub or somewhere, and the process of taking that code into a production where your end users can use as an application or a service, it takes a bunch of other people, DevOps people, your security teams, and a whole lot of people. And you can see the level of coordination that is required. And sometimes we have found from the point the engineers are done with the full code to the point it makes the production, there have been cycles of more than six months, 8 months, and so forth, because so many teams need to get together and get things done and get things approved. This is where our internal developer platform or the engineering platform comes into play, because it just completely abstracts away all of this. So think of it as a black box for now. And what would happen is you simply connect your code to this, and it would, in a nice way, govern you through saying, okay, how many environments do you want? What kind of secrets do you want to maintain? What's the level of security you want to maintain? And you just answer those questions along the way, and it's going to create all of that necessary provisioning for you. So your deployment time goes down from 6 months to 8 months, all the way down to, again, 10 minutes. Think of the level of iteration and go to market you can do with these kinds of systems. So that is at a very high level how you complete that stack of building, connecting, deploying, and governing. But when it comes to governing, we've just been talking about the typical systems, not agentic. So you already have systems that are, running 24/7, right? But now we are getting into a space where agentic experiences are becoming a norm. And now your systems also need to decide 24/7. So this is where we will warmly welcome you into the agentic enterprise. And WSO2 is heavily invested in this. And one of the key players that we are putting out from WSO2 is the agent manager. So imagine after creating those agents, like the technology that you saw earlier within the integration stack, where you can just peek your way through and create those agents. What if you can have a system that can quickly plug into all of this and observe those agents, figure out how the deployment is done, what level of safety is there, and more than anything, how useful those agents are being. So this is not a typical observability case with error rates, bandwidth, latency, and all that. With agentic experiences, you can see you need to monitor stuff like coherence. How helpful was that? How grounded the response was? Whether the agent had goal clarity, whether what kind of a reasoning quality did it have? So all of this is what we really try to provide with the agent manager. So this is from a very high level overview, what we provide and how we help businesses take their digital visions and make it a reality. And of course, if you want to hear more about all of this and of course work with your peers in your same verticals, we have a big event coming up from WSO2. WSO2 Cons coming to Africa. And of course, still the early bird and everything is going on. It's going to be held in Kenya from September 22nd all the way to 24th, where you will meet many different industry leaders from all kinds of verticals. And we warmly welcome you to join us and share that time with us and, share your thoughts as well. So I think that's me done. So Tendai, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dulsara. That was yeah, really, really good presentation. I know I have a few questions that I have with me here. If that people had asked, if anyone else, if you still have any more questions, yeah, we're still open to answer those. You can send them in. But the first question that I have here, I think was about the integrator. They're saying, does the integrator get built via the AI or is it a template?
Yes, Tendai. So for the integrator, what happens is there's a co-pilot that would fully allow you to custom develop your requirement. So there's no templating going on behind the scenes, but there are stuff like connectors. For example, let's say your business requirement requires you to connect to Gmail or WhatsApp and pull information. So the way you connect to these platforms is standardized. So the connectors are being used, but there's no template in how you do that. Whatever your business logic is, it's going to create a custom solution for you every time.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then also, I think there was a question about monetization. The saying, how easy would it be for an institution like Sigma to tokenize or monetize their APIs?
Yes, definitely. So for monetizing APIs out of the box, the API manager allows the ability to do either pay-as-you-go solutions or package solutions. So for example, in package solutions, you can say, pay $10 to get up to, I don't know, 10,000 requests per month. And you can create multiple tiers and you can directly set out whatever the payment gateway you'd like. So there's no one fixed payment gateway. So let's say you want to use EcoCash, you want to use a specific bank, let's say CBZ or cabs, etc. Whatever the payment gateway you would like to use within your entity, you can directly connect to that and you can get the payment process through that. Our system will be able to pull that information, verify whether the payment went through, and then automatically unlock it. Same thing goes with pay as you go, where you allow them to, for example, accrue, let's say, a week's worth of usage or a month's worth of usage, and at the end of the month you get billed. So likewise, there are multiple models you can implement.
And then the last question I have for you was about legacy systems. How could we modernize them or make them work with APIs, or does WSO have a way of making that happen?
Yes, definitely. So this is why integrator is really powerful. So imagine you're still at a level. So let's take two extremes. Okay, so let's take let's take you're still using some TCP level connection, or let's say you're using WSDL or SOAP endpoints. And let's say, for example, let's say you're a bank and your core banking is still running on SOAP. And you're trying to create this agentic experience I was showing, and agents don't consume in SOAP, they want MCP. It's the latest and greatest protocol for this. So you don't need to now suddenly go and modernize your core banking and do the transformation. The integrator itself can simply slot in, and it can expose those backends directly from XML and SOAP based over to over to AI as MCP. Even depending on your use case, even the API manager is able to do that. For example, with the API manager, you can within 5 minutes take a SOAP endpoint and make it a REST endpoint. I actually have a blog around that. If you just Google it, you can find that as well. And the moment you have a REST endpoint, you just click a simple button and then it will generate the MCP for you. So your journey from legacy XML to MCP was just 5 to 6 minutes.
Amazing. So that was the last question I had for you. Thank you very much, Dulsara. Thank you very much, our participants and our valued customers, for joining us today. I'm very appreciative. I know the level of people in here did not find time that easily. So I'm very glad that you managed to make the time to join us today. Don't forget, if you have any questions or if you're interested in the solutions we've talked about today. Oh, sorry, Polite. I was about to rush. Yes. Here, if you have a question, you can unmute and go right ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to find out if you're going to be sharing the presentation where you're recording.
Yes.
There might be people interested in the contents, I think, of the presentation that we had today. Thank you.
Absolutely, definitely. So this call was recorded. So I will be sharing the presentation for the people who had registered and still managed to make it. And I will also be uploading it to our YouTube channel. So I'll put the YouTube link in the chat. Be on the lookout for that as well. That should be uploaded. And if you have any questions about what you heard today, don't be shy. Get in touch with us at sales@adept.co.zw as always. And Margaret or I or Judith will be more than willing to help you out and guide you through the process. And Dulsara will also be more than happy to help your organization get to where it wants to be. Without that, thank you very much for your time today, guys. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, team. Have an amazing day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget to share the link.
Yes, definitely. And also the
Absolutely.
presentation that will be shared.
Yes. I will absolutely make
Thank you.
sure.
Good day.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank